Welcome back to the Map for College learning community. My name is Ernest Manelli, founder of My Action Plan for College. And this video will focus on young people establishing their financial priorities. I know that we talk about the college planning process as part of a larger process of planning for your career choices, planning to continue your education, planning to develop a foundation upon which future continuous growth may occur. And a large part of that has to do with your own sense of being centered around a concept of sustainability. And what I mean by sustainability is that you really have to make something work so that your finances, your personal life, and your education and your career plans are all working in harmony with each other. So, regardless of what background you come from, I am firmly of the belief that every student has the opportunity, whether they are pursuing a career track in a very focused and dedicated way, or whether they are utilizing the college experience to try to explore a few different interests that they might have that might lead them toward a future career path. You can always maintain some good, sound financial principles. And actually, this principle that I'm going to share today is one that I learned by listening to a radio program. So when I lived in California, this was in the 1990s, and I was teaching in the California public schools. I would listen to a program on AM radio called Financial Fitness, and it was once a week. And it was with a woman named Cynthia Otie. And unfortunately, Cynthia Otie passed away in the Alaska Airlines plane crash of the late 90s, early 2000s. But I was able to listen to her program for a few years, and it really gave me a great basis for financial knowledge. So, the late Cynthia Otie, I have to give you credit because I learned it from you first through the radio. She had a philosophy that when you're young, whether you have a summer job, whether you freelance, whether you do things like shovel snow, cut grass, deliver newspapers or flowers, or, help as an Uber driver, I don't know whatever you do, to make money. Some people have internships, some people I worked construction when I was a teenager. Whatever you do, you work at a bowling alley. If you're making money, Cynthia Otie's concept was pay yourself first. And the pay yourself first concept means that you don't have to make it an exorbitant percentage, but maybe start with something you can live with, like maybe 10% that you start off with as a basis point. So I know when you're first starting out and when you're first making money, every dollar counts. And you look at your check, especially if you have a W 2 and you're paying into taxes and you're paying into Social Security, and you're like, wow, your eyes start to open. You're like, wow, we all have the same uncle, Uncle Sam, like, and Uncle Sam needs the money for a variety of reasons. But even if every dollar is important, and even if you feel like you can't stretch your budget too much, you have to pay yourself first. When I was a young person, I worked construction during the summers, and I also had work study jobs once I was in college. I actually worked a work study job with the athletic department in the equipment room doing equipment distribution and laundry services. So I worked with large scale laundry facilities to do the laundry for the athletic department for the various sports teams. And I had a great work study boss, Chet Stone, fabulous guy. And then I also, at various times, worked in the admissions and financial aid office as a work study student. And I would answer phones, I would file paperwork, I would, handle, take correspondence and take messages to various admissions and financial aid officers. But if you can, I remember saving 10% of my take home was really hard back then. But if you do that, then maybe you can move up to 12.5% after a few months, and then maybe move up to 15%. And when I say save, I don't mean save it for a week or 2 weeks or 3 months and then spend it on a Camaro. I mean save it. And then when you get a certain amount of money, then you can decide, okay, am I going to do a money market? Am I going to do a certificate of deposit? I know that those aren't paying great interest rates lately, but you could do something. You could maybe put it into a mutual fund, or whatever you want to do. You could put it into a Roth IRA, as I mentioned on one of my previous videos, the extolling the virtues of looking into the Roth IRA as a possible option. But I think the concept of paying yourself first is important, because if you can pay yourself first, even if it's a meaningful, focused amount percentage wise, you will start to develop more and more ability to have autonomous choices. If you make those investments in your teens and early 20s, then when you're in your mid to late 20s, early to mid to late 30s, you'll have more and more choices when it comes to where you want to live. Do you want to rent? Do you want to buy a fixer-upper? Do you want to save and buy for a home? Do you want to live at home with your parents after college? Some people do that. Do you want to share an apartment with some buddies? Do you want to, take the bus or the subway instead of having a car for a few years? All of these discussions play into the fact that you need to have your financial house in order, and you need to make adaptations, because the pay yourself first concept is part of a bigger holistic sense of making sure you have financial viability. You could be a blue collar kid like I was, on a heavy dose of financial aid, both need based and merit based, thankfully, which I was, and you can still build and prosper as you go. I was fortunate. I was able to buy property in my late 20s, and it was ahead of schedule from what I originally thought, because I started paying myself first. And so when you pay yourself first and you put that priority, ahead of your phone bill, ahead of, like, you don't need an expensive phone. You don't need expensive cable. You don't need Netflix. You don't need the best and brightest fashions. Like, those are choices. You need to pay yourself first, because otherwise you're basically just feeding oats to a dead horse, so to speak, as the old saying would go in the old country. Because if you're just subsisting and subsisting and subsisting and not putting anything in that proverbial piggy bank, then what have you really gained? And the thing is, if you can gain traction and momentum and get some dollar cost averaging going and get some compounding interest going, you'll be in much better shape 5, 10, 15 years from now. And I know some students put the blinders on and say, I have to eat ramen noodles. I just have to get through the next few months. I don't have much spending money. Look, I remember what it was like to borrow money from roommates, or to, share a pizza, Pinocchio's Pizza in Cambridge. And, I know what it's like to return bottles and cans to the redemption center to try to get a few bucks in addition to my part-time job. But you just have to pay yourself first. And if anything is coming through in this video, have a plan, have a written plan with a commitment. And I would say minimum of 10%. Some people say, oh, start with 5%. 5% isn't enough, my friends. Minimum of 10% that you pay yourself out of every paycheck, not the paychecks you want to, every paycheck from the time you start making money. That will help to build a little bit more stability for your financial future. Just a thought to consider. Once again, my name is Ernest Manelli, founder of My Action Plan for College. Please feel free to like this video, subscribe to our growing YouTube community and our growing YouTube channel. And once again, if you have questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you so much.